G'day, und willkommen to this edition of DURKO's Notebook for the 2023 Austrian Grand Prix. Got a lot to talk about, so pull up a pew, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
You wouldn't fucking read about it.
So the first topic I want to clear up is, of course, one of the drivers, and that is Nick DeRose. There was a lot of talk about him last season driving for about half the teams, and then he's obviously landed the seat with AlphaTauri for this season, which is going to be renamed, of course, next year. But DeRose is on notice. It's the hot rumour is that Helmut Marko has told him he's got 4 races left to really show what he can do, or otherwise he's gone. Now, the rumour is, well, everyone wants, obviously, Ricciardo to have another spin in the Red Bull garage at least. I think I'd rather see Liam Lawson. I'm not saying that as an Aussie against Daniel Ricciardo, but I think he's had his chance. And I think it's time for the next generation to come through, that being Liam Lawson, to show what he can do against potentially Yuki Tsunoda as a teammate. So I think DeVries is not going to see the season out with AlphaTauri, and Liam Lawson will be Tsunoda's new teammate in a few races' time. Of course, during the course of the weekend, we were witness to some wet racing, track limits being breached about every 5 seconds, with some 1,200 odd notifications of penalty breaches for the track limits. But one of the most stupid penalties I think I've seen, and everyone's probably going to disagree with me here, and that's fine, but Leclerc re-entering the pit lane. Now, he's come into the pit lane entrance, and he's gone as far wide as right to the right as he can, trying to get into the pit lane. Now, Piastri's come belting around on a hot lap and just gone, shit, I'm impeded. Now, it's neither here nor there, but it is design fault potentially of the circuit, the Red Bull Ring circuit, where the pit lane entry approaches into the trajectory of where Piastri was going to go, with Leclerc being right on the edge of the pit lane entry, while Piastri's here just on, absolutely hammering it along, trying to get his best time he can, because he's in the McLaren that's not as fully upgraded as what his teammates is, because Norris got all the upgraded package shit. But I think it's a bullshit penalty, because you wouldn't penalise somebody for turning into their own driveway, and that's a potential what he was trying to do, was go home into his own driveway to get back to the garage. So I think it was just the most stupid, ludicrous penalty, that 3-place grid penalty handed out for that. McLaren could have told him, yeah, look, Leclerc's slowing down, and clearly he's going into the pits. Ferrari could have said to Leclerc, you got Piastri up your arse, you better be careful. And obviously he did, because he pulled to the far to the right as possible, and that's where I think the defence argument would come, to argue the penalty that was dished out. And clearly, obviously, Max and Lewis had a bit of a come together, and there was some words thrown around about that and how fair or unfair it was. But I think Max just outdrove Lewis coming into turn 1 up to turn 3, up through turn 2 into 3. And they were going wheel to wheel with each other, and as I say, rubbing's racing, and there was nothing came of it. They didn't bend any parts on the car. It was literally just 2 world champions fighting out with each other for the same bit of real estate that they both wanted. So I couldn't see any issue with that, and I don't know why there was such a hoo-ha about it, and everyone throwing all their toys out of the cot to say this is bullshit. Max has been unfair, Lewis has been cut off. Just another pathetic, just a joke, no issue. And the sprint race, obviously, it was a bit of coming together between Max and Chico coming into turn 3. And again, I think this is not a wet track, damp track. There was talk about the mist spray, rooster tails coming off through turn 1, 2. But coming up to 3, the track was a lot drier, and there was no rooster tails, obviously. But I think you could clearly see that Max just outbraked himself, allowing Chico to undercut. But then Max got more drive out of the corner to come back. And this is what Formula 1 motor racing is all about. It's not about team priority for drivers anymore, I don't think. I think you've got to be fair and say, look, both in the same equipment, and Max is just a better driver. So, there were some discussions after that sprint race between Max and Chico, obviously, and they wanted to do it off camera because Chico worked out very quickly, had a TV camera in his face, and he wanted to have a quiet word with Max, but I couldn't see any issue with it, and obviously they cleared the air between the two of them to say, look, it's a first lap incident in a sprint race. What's the problem here? The race itself, I think it was a terrific race. obviously there was, as I said, 1,200 infractions for track limits being breached. But overall, the race was great. Heaps of DRS, heaps of overtaking, just wheel-to-wheel racing. That's what we want. That's what you don't get at these bullshit car park circuits like Miami and what Las Vegas is going to be. And that's why I just hate them. We've got to get to real circuits like the Red Bull Ring and Spa and Silverstone, where we're going next week. But obviously the track limits was an issue. Some people say, or Max has said, move the white line out. I think you're just shifting the problem. You're putting another Band-Aid on another saw. You just got to rip that Band-Aid off and you've still got a saw over here. I think what they've got to do is the FIA have called for the gravel traps to come back, but then other spectators of other forms of motorsport, namely the MotoGP, say, well, you can't race at the Red Bull Ring anymore because it's got gravel traps. It's too dangerous for the bikes. Well, okay, MotoGP races a shitload more tracks than F1 does. Do they need to go to the Red Bull Ring? Can they find another circuit in Europe? Because there's a shitload of them. They go to Paul Ricard and race there if they want, because they don't need gravel traps at Paul Ricard because they've got those stupid painted lines everywhere. So maybe MotoGP could ditch the Austrian round and just put the gravel traps back in for the advantage of the F1 to stop the traffic breaches of drivers going across the track limits. Because if they go into the gravel trap, they're just going to bend their car and stuff it and bin it. I mean, we don't want the sausage curves back because, as everyone says, they just damaged the car. It was just a complete joke. And the repair costs for getting the cars fixed after the sausage curves. But, yeah, I think gravel traps are the way to go. And for the MotoGP, it's just too bad, so sad. Go and race somewhere else. The other thing I want to talk about is obviously over the course of the weekend, there was a lot of talk about the domination of Red Bull and when is it going to come to end. Now, I want to use this simple graphic that I've designed, and we've all studied these in school at some stage, and it's called a bell curve, and you can see from the graphic I've designed, Red Bull's obviously the peak at the moment, or they've been, obviously the horizontal axis is time and the vertical axis is your performance. Now, Red Bull's obviously the peak of their game at the moment. Mercedes were at their peak of their game, their bell curve ran out, they came down at the bottom, and they lost performance. Red Bull's at the top. Obviously, at some stage, time will be at their disadvantage. They will start to lose performance, and that's where I think Aston Martin will start to pick up. And I know it's a long shot, but potentially Aston Martin could be the next big team to start getting wins and potentially fighting for titles to take them off Red Bull. Because I think with Lawrence Stroll's investment in that wind tunnel, and obviously Mike Crack's as a new team principal, the team boss, he's got his head screwed on and he's steering that team in the right direction. So that bell curve for me explains what's going on at the moment. Everyone may disagree about the whole domination thing, but I've been watching this, series for 30 plus years. I've been through the Senna, the Prost, Hackett when he won 2 series, the perfect gentleman race that he was, the Schumachers, the Vettels, when Alonso won his couple of titles. When Benettons were just unbeatable, through the Vettel and obviously the Hamilton now into the Verstappen phase we're going through. It's just a phase. It's just the peak will drop off, and for Red Bull they'll obviously may lose their performance at some stage. Yeah, so that's basically all I wanted to say. Was just an unreal race overall that we were witness to. The 71 laps, just really great racing and wheel-to-wheel action. That's what we want to see. And some really good overall performances, especially in the sprint race for Haas. Williams are getting back up there. But AlphaTauri, they're just the dud team. I think they've just got to spear DeRose. So that's it for me. For this edition of DURKO's Notebook for the 2023 Austrian Grand Prix. I'll be back next week with a notebook for the British Grand Prix. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.